involved in a couple of things, and that we're starting to see that, and people realizing the power of synergy and working together to make things happen to a greater degree. And that's one of the, I think that's one of the magic things about humanity, is that when we work together, when there is a unified voice, effort, and action, then we see multiplied results, not just additive results. It's not just me plus you and a dog named Blue or whatever that is. But when we combine our efforts, when we combine our intentions, when we combine our resources, the the outcome, and the impact is exponential. It gets multiplied, and so Brent is a part of that, and just someone that I've gotten to know a little bit recently, that I want you all to meet and learn a little bit about him, and a little bit about the things that are going on with Heroes Advancement Project, and especially this event that's coming up on May 10th. It's gonna be amazing. Got some surprises for those that show up. Some things I promise you. Um, you're going to experience some things that you've never experienced before. At least a couple. One of them is going to blow you out of the water. Um, Definitely excited about that. There's going to be some other things. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull it up here. Just some of the items that we're going to be seeing there, and also I'm going to post on the Facebook page. I'll post the website and where you can go and purchase tickets. But this event is going to be on May 10th, and I love it because, for a lot of reasons, but I definitely love it because it's cocktail attire. Now, this is coming up on May 10th, 2 weeks, 6 days, and 15 minutes. We'll be kicking this thing off on the Hero Advancement Project, and there's a great group. You can go to the website at www.heroadvance.org. Um, heroadvance.org. You can check that out, and you'll see on there. And I'm pulling it up right now, looking at it. Delivering healing to our heroes, providing hope, opportunity, and purpose to combat suicide and despair. And so when we bring Brent on, we're going to bring him on in a little bit. We're going to talk about some of this. We're going to hear a little bit about his story and what he has experienced, his time in the military, also what his life is like today, and why organizations like Heroes Advancement Programs and Oath, which is another organization that we are partnering and supporting, how those organizations are doing great things to impact the lives. And so, yeah, so this is one of the exciting things. So let me tell you a little bit about this event. And we got Brent's going to be coming on here in just a minute. Let me pull him up on Skype so you all can see somebody else that's as pretty as me on the radio and on Facebook Live. So this event is May 10th, and it's going to be at State Hall in Fair Park. Now, this is an amazing venue. I mean, it's beautiful. If you haven't been there, this is going to be my first event there. But man, I'm really impressed with what I've seen. And so, cocktail attire. So the ladies get to dress up and look great. And it's going to be an absolutely awesome night. There's going to be the Emerald City Band is going to be there. And if you've never experienced them, you've never partied with them, then you definitely need to come out and check them out, because they are absolutely entertaining, dynamic. They're going to be there. There's going to be a video release that you have never seen before. Going to be amazing. I've seen it. You have it. And I tell you what, you're going to love it. So let's get Brent on the line here and talk about it. So, got it. Come check it out May 10th at the State Hall, Fair Park in Dallas. And it's a charity event. You go to that website, heroadvance.org, heroadvance.org. And again, I'll put that on the web. Here we go. Let's get him dialed up here. I'll put that on the web so that you can check it out. All right. Brent. Hey, good morning, Brent.
Good morning, Ursul. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Doing real good.
All right, we had to do a little bit of gymnastics here to get you on, but we got you there, and everything going well.
Yeah, everything's going amazingly well.
Awesome. Hey, Mark, how's that audio? Sounding good? Awesome.
Yeah, he's coming loud and clear. I'm getting ready to go check the feeds and all, but it sounds good.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, Brent. Well, first, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take just a minute and just have you introduce yourself to our audience here on KVGI Radio. Tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your military service, and what you experienced.
Okay. My name is Staff Sergeant Brent Bretz. I'm a Army sniper, retired. I grew up in Arizona here and joined the military pre 9/11. Got in, joined the infantry, did my basic Fort Benning, Georgia, and was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington. And about a year after I had gotten into the service, 9/11 happened to occur. Deployed several years later in the very end of 2004 to Iraq. Spent about 2.5 months there all over the country. And then December 19, 2004, I was actually hit by an improvised explosive device. When that happened, I was put in a critical condition. I became a double leg amputee. Kind of ended up dealing with a bunch of other stuff. Spent about 2.5 years in recovery between Bethesda Naval Hospital and Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. And then I was discharged from military service June of 2007. Since then, I've kind of gone on to work within the veteran community ever since, helping to run and collaborate with veteran nonprofits, and I've been doing that for well over the last 10 years.
Oh, awesome. Now, I know that one of the organizations that you've been involved with is Oath. Is that correct?
You know what? I haven't had much involvement with Oath.
Okay.
I just kind of heard about them through a collaboration that we have going on with some other nonprofit veteran-based organizations.
Okay.
And so I got to be honest with you. From what I've heard, though, Herschel, I'm kind of really looking forward to working with them and really kind of helping get their name out there to get some really great things accomplished.
Absolutely, I am too. I'm kind of in the same boat. I've heard of them for a little while. This will be the first opportunity to connect and work with them. So, what other types of organizations or things have you been involved with, and what has really been the focus of your mission as you've been working? Not only based on what you experienced, but how you've been supporting the veteran community since you've been discharged.
So the main two that I've been working with was SaluteASoldier.org, which I actually helped found and president for a long time. We went ahead and kind of let that one go and started working with just kind of an Arizona-based one for AZ Heroes to Hometowns.org. And kind of, to be honest with you, my role has been ever changing based on the needs of the veterans. I wish I could, kind of put it down to be really simple in its dynamics, but it's been very complex. I mean, we handle everything from like the spiritual aspect of stuff to, just helping them out with like Thanksgiving dinner to whatever the needs be. And I think at this point, I think what the problem is that we have a lot of veterans out there who are getting back and have been back for a little while. And so they're trying to return to this norm and get back into doing things by themselves. And it's not that we don't believe that they can. We're just kind of wondering, why would they? I mean, like it says, when you work a business, I mean, it's networking that really helps it be successful.
Correct.
When you're like with family, it's that family unit and the expansion of the family unit that makes it successful. And so you see a lot of these veterans, feeling like they don't need to be in these programs long term. but I think what happens is kind of the veterans that's been around longer, they have the opportunity to start helping other veterans and being of service to not only their families and their communities, but now to the veteran organizations that we want to kind of look at um, helping out here in the future.
I'm really excited to hear you say that because one of the things that I've talked about and I believed one is you're absolutely right. So every veteran is we're not monoliths, right? Every veteran doesn't have the same needs, the same experience, and even a particular veteran, their needs may change from one phase of life to another phase of life, just like anybody else. But the really important thing that I think one of the things that I think that you said there that's really important is the human experience in general is built for community, right? We're meant to be in relationship and connection, just like you said, with the family, uh, networking, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're running a business. And so those things are important. But what we find when you join the military, and I've said this before, common adversity creates a greater bond, right? I'm a Marine, you're in the Army. I know that those first 12 weeks that we get to experience being a Marine, there's a few people there that are assigned to make sure that adversity comes our way hard and fast, right? And
Oh yeah.
we call them drill instructors, right? But but that adversity takes a bunch of people who didn't know each other prior to showing up in general, had no connection, and bonds them together because they consistently have to overcome obstacles together. They have to go through challenges and endure adversity together. I experienced that obviously even greater, just like you did during when I was in the Persian Gulf War. When you were in combat, you experienced that at a much higher level. And so I think you make a great point that one of the things that's so valuable is maintaining that level of community relationship. Um, you and I have never met face to face, but if I look on our WhatsApp communication, we probably called each other brother 7 or 8 times, just in regular conversation because there's that bond that's created. And I think that is really one of the challenges. Not so much that every veteran or even most veterans need someone to give them anything, right? Or necessarily need help with just the basics of living. That's not the the veteran experience for every person, right? But that
Absolutely.
yeah, but that level of community, connection and relationship, that's what's valuable. That's what we all desperately need and crave, and that was ingrained in us even when we started that mission. So let's talk a little bit about this new organization and this event on May 10th. I know that I'm excited about it, but the Heroes Advancement Project. What can you say about that?
You know what is I can say a lot about it. I think there was a need to help kind of take nonprofits that were working laterally, like that can work laterally or even laterally. Says sorry, man. And start getting to them to collaborate to help kind of address a bigger issue and what I've seen working within the veteran community and especially within the nonprofit side for so long is the unwillingness to help each other out based on the fact that they see each other as competition based. They worry about the funding. They worry about mission statements and things like that. So you don't see a lot of them actually working to do a lot of things. And the crazy thing to me is, like speaking for like basing things on a foundation, like some are really good at making that foundation and laying the cement and doing those things. And some are really good at building walls and some are really good at putting windows in and opening up doors for other people. But because they don't collaborate and work in unison, the house is never really getting finished. And it's at a point now to where you're seeing the decrease not only in the community support for veterans and veteran organizations and these kinds of things, but you're also seeing the decrease in veteran attendance. I mean, as we went from like 6 or 7, 8 years ago, putting together dinners and we'd have 50, 60 people show up and they had their families there, and we would take over almost a whole entire restaurant. to now when we do our dinners. I mean, we got a couple of tables of people, and this slow and steady decline, I think, is also because these nonprofits are giving out the ideology that, like, you can join one but not the other, and then you have, and it seems like, like, one will take you hunting and fishing and the other one will help you with the peer mentoring program, but they don't want their veterans kind of jumping from one to another because of the competition base in which they find themselves in. And I think we need to address the issue of helping them understand how to get funding and how to start collaborating these ideas to really kind of take on a bigger venture that needs to be addressed at this point.
Yeah, that is a conversation that I'm hearing more and more, and I think that's a very important conversation. One of the challenges in the nonprofit space is really the one metric that you actually have is, can we raise enough money to keep the doors open? It's not like a business where there's a bottom line profitability that proves whether you're actually successful or not. And so one of the things I would love to see, and I think this part of this conversation, is really not only creating a collaboration of services and opportunities that are available to veterans, but as we coalesce them and as we create this cooperative environment, it's really measuring impact and who's doing what they say that their mission and their passion, who's actually accomplishing it, who's seeing results, and then how can we help those results? And for those that aren't, how can we help them actually achieve the results that they say they want? Hey, Brent, I'm going to have to take a break here, but are you good to come back and talk a little bit more in the second segment?
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely.
Okay, great. We're going to go to commercial here. Stick with us on Urshel Speaks. We're going to talk a little bit more with Brent and learn a little bit more about the Heroes Advancement Project. Awesome. He's going to run some commercials. Am I talking over anything, Mark?
You're live on Facebook, but the radio's got commercials. Unless
Okay.
you want me to put them on here too, but you guys can continue Facebook.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start a watch party here and invite some people on Facebook to come check us out.
Okay.
Any other, like I said, we're still live on Facebook. So any other points that you'd like to hit before we go back live on the radio?
You know what? I think I'm not one of those people that like to kind of dump this out, but I don't really have anything off the top of my head at the moment to kind of address.
Okay, no problem. That's good because I'm full of stuff to talk about. Or some people might just say I'm full of it, but either way.
Well, you gotta. If someone's, like, most people are full of something. At least it's full of something good at this point. Something to talk about. Something that, it's just like actual addressing issues. So we don't mind, Urshel.
All right, good. I'm gonna need you to after this show's over to call my wife and remind her of that as well.
All right, fair enough.
Awesome. All right. Okay, good. I'm gonna pull it up here and start a watch party and start inviting some people. All right. Some of my favorites are out there listening already. Natalie Swanson, she just had a birthday, and she is absolutely proof that that God loves me because He gave me a friend like her a long time ago, and she's stuck with me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Here's the watch party going now. All right. We'll see him showing up.
Hey, can you give me just 1 second, Urshel? We still got a minute.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I had to spilled some stuff on the counter and it's kind of driving me nuts. So I gotta go take care of that.
All right.
1 minute.
1 minute. All right. Got some people joining here. All right, we're getting ready to go back live.
Awesome.
Premium beard care, not women. It's not that kind of site. Thank you, and beard on.
All right, we're back for our second segment on Urschel Speaks here on this awesome Tuesday in Frisco, Texas, and we've got Brent Bretz, who is a U.S. Army sniper that is retired. And now we're not only are we live on Facebook, but we've got a little watch party going and a bunch of people jumping on. So once again, just give me a quick snippet about your military career and the things that you experienced since then.
Okay, I served from October of 2000 to June of 2007. I deployed to Iraq. The end of 2004. Spent some time QRF Raw Theater, so I had the pleasure of visiting Taji, spending a couple days in Baghdad, being in Fallujah during Operation Phantom Fury, and then being up north in Mosul. After getting into Mosul, spending a little time in Haman al-Lil, just outside of the larger city there, I actually ran over an IED. Lost both my legs as was flown out and to Germany, spent 3 weeks there just doing recovery stuff, sent me into Bethesda Naval Hospital, where I ended up doing another 6 months or 7 months of recovery, and then finished out my another 2 years of recovery at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, and then was discharged June of 2007.
Discharged June 2007, Staff Sergeant in the United States Army, and since that time you've been focusing the lion's share of your time supporting and helping veterans and veteran organizations like the one that we're talking about today, Heroes Advancement Project, or Heroes Advancement Programs. And so there's an event coming up on May 10th at Fair Park. And tell us a little bit about that event and your role being there. You're going to be at the event, correct?
I will be at the event, absolutely.
Awesome.
As a matter of fact, I'll be one of the speakers for the night. But hey, it's just an event to not only help kind of address a couple of issues that nonprofits deal with, but to also help highlight one of the nonprofits for veterans that we think is doing a good job and kind of helping progress their cause and kind of alleviate some of their stresses that they might have with the receiving funding and being able to kind of put things into motion. And so I'll be there. We'll just kind of have conversations with the president of Oath Inc., Gary Bartels, an amazing individual, done a lot of amazing stuff for these veterans, and really kind of just putting things into motion to help nonprofits kind of start thinking on a bigger scale. And I truly believe that the undertaking of this has the potential to change how veteran organizations and nonprofits work in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, I used to joke and explaining this in a different context. You know, in the Marine Corps, when you're on what we call the green side, the ground side, you know, if you're infantry or you're artillery or you're with FSSG, you know, everybody kind of talks about everybody else, and you know, everybody talks about the air wing, and you know, they're lax and they've got all of this money, and people talk about the ground pounders and you know, battery operated grunts, radio operators, and so we all spend a lot of time ragging each other and talking about each other. how you train, how you spend your money, what it's like when you deploy. I was a communications technician, so when I went to the desert in Saudi Arabia, I had 20-foot maintenance shelters that were so cold because of the air conditionings. We'd put our soda cans in the air conditioning vents, and they'd be ice cold, right? So that part of life in the desert wasn't tough for us. So everybody rags on everyone. But here is the beautiful thing. When the day comes that our government calls upon us to go and create a beautiful destruction somewhere, you might as well take Tchaikovsky and Mozart, and you might as well put classical music to the way that it all comes together. And all of these different units, the artillery, the close air support, the helicopters, the grunts, and everybody is doing their job. And that's what makes us the greatest military force in the world. And that's the same thing that I hear you saying, and the same attitude I think that we have to take with what we see in the veteran support community and the nonprofits and all of those that are supporting the same community, is this attitude that says, you know what? I've got a little bit different mission here. We've got a different focus over here. We're completely different. But if we'll combine our efforts, if we will support each other, if we'll get rid of this mentality that we're all competing for the same donor dollars, that we're all trying to support this, specific group of veterans and trying to create some level of loyalty. If we just create a loyalty to the veteran community and say that the mission is the most important thing, not just my mission, because it doesn't do any good if I'm in the infantry and all I care about is my mission, but I don't care about the mission of any of the supporting units or other branches or other countries, right? I have to think about the mission as the total mission of what we're trying to accomplish. And if the mission is advancing and helping and supporting veterans who have served, whether it's employment, whether it's entrepreneurship, which I've been involved in a lot and still involved in, whether it's, just helping people with some of the basic things of life, or whether it's mental health or dealing with, emotional issues. If we all take that approach, just like you're saying, and just like we're going to see at this event on May 10th at Fair Park, if we take that approach to say, you know what, we're all working together, and if you're not working together, you're really taking away from the overall mission. If you're not willing to support and recognize that at our best, any of us can only have a small impact, but together at our best, we can change legislation. I mean, we can do things that absolutely change the landscape of the experience that veterans have. And one of the things we're all familiar with the statistics that came out that said 22 veterans a day in 2014 were committing suicide, right?
Correct.
And so that has been, since that time, that's been talked about a lot, and the numbers have been debated, 2 or 3, here or there, plus or minus, it doesn't really matter. But, one of the things when I first got involved with some organizations that were focusing on that, and I went and pulled that report and I read it, and I read something that shocked me that no one was really talking about in that conversation, and that it was like 82% of the veterans that were committing suicide in that report they weren't post 9/11, they weren't the military of my era, they were actually Vietnam era veterans. It was over 80%, and yeah, and I thought you were gonna say something. And so that was a shocking part of it, because that wasn't what I was hearing being talked about. But it made me think really what I thought the major crux of the problem is. And it's what we talked about a little bit earlier. One, it's having that connection, those relationships, and still feeling like you're a part of something that matters, part of something that's bigger than you. And I know in my generation, your generation, organizations like the American Legion, organizations like VFW, they don't carry as much weight to the young veterans as I think they did in the past. But I think they served a great purpose, and I think they still can. And maybe that's a part of it. Maybe there needs to be a little bit of a reboot, in some of the mentalities of those organizations, because they continue to provide that community. But I know that there's some guys, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday with a friend, the Combined Arms down in Houston, and they've done. Are you familiar with them at all?
You know what? I'm not, as a being Arizona based, I kind of don't reach into that community too much.
Yeah, yeah. I think it'd be great if we connect with them, because they've done a great. They've got one facility. They've got all of these veteran services all in the same place, and they work together. And so if we can replicate that and maybe create that on a more national scale, or a more regional scale, and create a different level of conversation that says we're here to support veterans in whatever ways that veterans need to be supported, I think we're going to see a greater impact. And then again, as you addressed earlier, not only is there a little bit of fatigue maybe on the donor side of things, there's a little bit of fatigue on the veteran side of things, because it's like, where do I go to? What do I connect with? And there's 15 different things, and none of them really seem to have anything to do with each other. Is that kind of what you've seen?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of these organizations have a very rigid mission statement
Mm-hmm.
to address what they've been addressing for a long time. But I think what really needs to happen and what really needs to be understood is that the dynamic of what the veteran deals with is ever changing. I mean, it never stays the same. It just as much as in the military, where the mission changes, there's change orders to the original mission. I mean, I think sticking within the confines of having a very rigid mission statement and trying to do the same thing for these veterans year after year after year, when they need different services, when they need different applications, when their life is ever changing. I mean, like it kind of makes it difficult to go to one place or even two places to handle problems that arise at this point.
Yeah. And again, no business would say, you know what, this is what we do and this is how we do it, and we're just not changing. Actually, a lot of businesses did say that, and they were called record stores and CD stores, right?
Right.
And you can't find them anymore.
I think that's also very relevant to what we're addressing now, and understanding the statistics of how many veteran nonprofits and veteran foundations are closing their doors, and the number is absolutely staggering. And I think a lot of it happens to do with them being very rigid in what they want to do and accomplish for vets, because they don't know how to change with the times. They don't know how to evolve as a company. They get into something and they leverage it, and they have a lot of success because it works with the immediate needs of the veterans, like getting them reacquainted with society. But as soon as that piece is done, I mean, what else are they offering these guys? And to the point to where they end up closing their doors. Or so on. It's kind of crazy to see the numbers on it, and seeing how many of these people are failing at trying to accomplish the task that needs to be accomplished.
Yeah. And a good friend of mine, Otis, he's made a comment here online just talking about the privatization of these things, and not just trying to, and I know that some nonprofits have even gotten in trouble just because it becomes more about the money than the mission. And we're not here to knock anybody. I believe that most people wake up and they want to have an impact. But just like Otis is saying here, we need to really focus on perfecting the services and not make the main thing the main thing. And if that's supporting those who've served, then let's do that, and let's do that in the greatest way possible, in a way that's commensurate with the service that our veterans have given our country. And but I don't think we can stress enough the fact that, one, if we don't evolve, if we don't pay attention to actually what's going on, what are the real needs, and how can those needs really be addressed, and how do we continue to evolve, and if that means that the nonprofit or the supporting community gets smaller but more efficient, that sounds great. That sounds like good business. If it gets bigger and has a greater impact and carries a greater weight, that sounds like good business. And I think that that's if I hear you right, those are the things. Even with the Heroes Advancement programs, what we really want to see is more of the nonprofits having a greater impact.
Absolutely, and we want to see some of these nonprofits actually start to collaborate ideas, and then understanding that this is an ever-changing dynamic. I mean, like it really is with the numbers being what they are for the community that is. You know, we're talking Vietnam vets in that era being 80% of this 22 a day statistic. You know, like what are they needing and what's not being addressed and where's their mission now and their sense of community and the rest of these things. And I wish I could triage all of this into one little thing, but it's really not that easy to do.
Right. Yeah, it isn't. It isn't. And that's where, and this is where I also love the opportunity and some of the things that I've seen in the public-private collaboration of combining public organizations, combining private organizations and nonprofit organizations, again, focusing on the outcome and on the mission. And one of the things that I've said for several years is that America has made a tremendous financial investment in every single veteran. I mean, you were a sniper, and so I don't know if you have or maybe I should say you are. Is that correct?
I am a sniper.
You are a sniper, okay. And I have to remind people that sometimes they say you used to be a Marine. I say no, I am a Marine.
Right.
But and so if you had to guess what the dollar figure is that our nation has invested in you and your training, what do you think that number would be, or just a round number?
A round number between the time and the mills and the munitions and the rest of it. I mean, I'd venture to say, you know, at least a few 100,000.
Yeah, at least a few 100,000. And I mean, if your parents were famous actors, they could have given that to a college to help you get in. But that's not the case. That's a different show. Sorry.
No,
yeah, that's not the case. But here's the thing: if that much money has already been invested in you, then why it doesn't make good financial sense for us to not continue to invest a little bit more in redevelopment to continue to benefit from what already has been put into your life, what's already been invested, the leadership, the training, the skill sets, the tactical mindset that's applicable for business as well. You still there? It looks like maybe we froze up a little bit. All right, we're going to try to reconnect, and we're going to go ahead and take our last break and come back for our final segment on Urshel Speaks. Keep sending in the comments, and we'll address them here in just a bit.
All right, we're good. Yeah, he froze.
Yeah, they disconnected. I'm going to call him back.
Hey, Urshel, you there?
All right. Yeah, froze up a little bit. That was perfect timing. It was time for us to go to our next break anyway. Let's look at it. We got a couple of questions, and my man Otis is still on here, and he's a couple of thoughts that he had about why not an integrated department of veteran affairs, and so Otis. So if I understand your question, are you talking about maybe increasing the scope of the Veterans Administration? If not, just let me know, or those types of organizations. Now, one of the things from my perspective, what I've seen is like people would say to us a lot, and tell me if you've heard this, the military should do a better job of helping veterans transition out. And Otis is also a veteran, and it's hard for me to call him Otis. I grew up calling him Griff. I've known him for a long time. And so you know, he's of one era, I'm of another era, you're another era in the military. And I know that transition training has gotten better and better. It's definitely today better than it was when I was in. But, you know, kind of my thoughts on that is that the Marine Corps promised, you know, when I signed that contract and raised my hand down at the MEPS, you know, they basically told me they were going to give me 3 hots and a cot. You know, they were going to give me a place to slay and food, and they were going to train me to be a warfighter. They never made a commitment, and I didn't go in expecting them to teach me how to become a civilian again. And that's really not the mission of the military. And so sometimes I wonder, do the services need to expand on the government side and that be the most effective way, or should it be more of a private sector sort of thing, whether it's the nonprofits outside? And the reason why I question that is my thought is maybe it's better if it's people who only focus on that, because I know in the Marine Corps, with the resources and the time and the people, we're focusing on really one thing in that mission. But then when there are those of us that have transitioned out, maybe we're in the private sector or in the nonprofit space, may be more qualified. And I don't have an answer to that question, but that's been my thought and what I've seen.
You know, I kind of agree with you on that as far as them having their mission and understanding that. And I think not only first and foremost does that transitional piece kind of help create job security for us on the outs as far as doing that, but it also helps us to continue to be of service, especially to our veteran brothers and sisters. I think what we see a lot of times is these guys, you know, like we're thanked for our service. We're not called military people, we're called service members.
Right.
I mean, like we're a service-based community. You know, honestly, we don't get paid a lot of money to do what we do and to go out and help people and, you know, like to really kind of do missions that don't involve combat action. You know, like going out and helping people reestablish things, and now we take that piece of service away from these guys. So I think taking that ability to serve and to be of service from the civilian sector, in my opinion, is a bad idea, and I think it needs to be kind of pushed that this is an opportunity to have some little victories and some little wins outside of the military service within being service not only to the possibilities of family and community, but also to, once again, your brothers and sisters in arms.
Yeah. That's one of the most profound statements. It's really, you know, and that's what people have said all my life. Oh, he was in the service. Oh, he was in the service.
Well, yeah, and I think that's exactly what needs to be.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
All right, and we're back live on KVGI Radio. And hey, Mark, I got somebody that's asking about calling in. What's that phone number for those who want to call in?
Well, that number is really easy, Herschel. It's 877-337-5844. That is 877-337-5844. And if you hit that or hit 0 when you dial in, you'll get directly into me, and I'll put you on the show.
All right.
You got 14 minutes, so hurry up.
14 minutes. It always goes by super fast here on Herschel Speaks. And it's because I feel like we're excuse me, we're always talking about things. I hope that we're talking about things that matter and that are relevant. And again, for those of you who may have tuned in late, we want to invite you to and make sure that you know about an event that we have coming up on May 10th. And that's going to be down at Fair Park. And it's going to be an amazing event. We'll post all of the links with an organization called the Heroes Advancement Programs. And the whole purpose of that organization is just what Brent's been talking about, finding ways to connect veteran nonprofit organizations and those that are serving the veteran community, and getting those organizations to work together and have a greater impact, and combining, you know, missions, thoughts, and resources, but also really helping. And I almost see it as like a consultative approach of really saying, you know, how can we help all of these organizations have a greater impact? and get more done, not necessarily with less, but with less effort, with less struggling and striving, and definitely removing this mentality of competing against one another to serve the same community, but actually bolstering all of those services. So make sure that you click on the links that we'll post on the on my page. I'll post them on the KVGI page, and we'll be sending out, if you're on any of our email lists, we'll be sending those out because we want you to know about this event. We want you to come out, hear the Emerald City Band. You hear me talk every week about Dean McCurry Auction Services and the great team that they have that comes out and that joins with nonprofit organizations and helps them raise, maximize their fundraising potential. So, there's going to be a lot of people out there. There's going to be a release. I'll go ahead and say this. There's going to be a release of a video that has not been seen up to this point. And Brent, you're in that video, aren't you?
Yes, I am, Herschel.
Awesome. Yeah. And I've seen it. And so this is going to be something that is going to be exciting for everyone to see, very impactful. But more importantly, we're going to do the very things that we're talking about. We're going to see other organizations. We're going to highlight one specific organization and help them with their mission, but really starting this conversation of saying, how can we get more veteran organizations working together and working to have a greater impact and do what we're all really passionate about. And I think that can only make our nation great. We were talking about the investment that's already been made in all of our nation's veterans, and why don't we continue to do that and continue to receive the benefits of these great men and women who've already served. All right, we've got a caller on there. Hey, Griff, are you there?
Yes, what's up, gentlemen? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Former Titan II combat crew.
Awesome.
I'm going to try to be concise with this. I don't have a problem with organizations like Brent as NGOs that are focused like it sounds like his is, but I'm a little older than you guys, and what I see is NGOs being used to advance privatization. And here's where I put it in chat. Basically, where I stand is it should be purpose over profit. Now, these services were once rendered to the military through contract labor, so the government organizations, say the veterans, actually got to oversee what's going on. What I've noticed in the last 30 years is it's farmed out to NGOs, then you have no oversight. And one of the reasons you actually hit on it, they're going out of business because they can't get proper funding, you can't control the focus of that organization, and they all aren't doing what you're doing. And there's been enough fraud in them that you can Google online, and I've experienced it myself. I've never used any of my veteran services until about 35 years after I left the military. So my concern is, why isn't this in-house with more control? Removing the oversight from veterans is creating a problem because you leave it for grifters to come in, almost like Trump University. I'll stop there, but I hope you cover this subject in depth again where we can go into detail. NGOs are not the way to go if there's no oversight.
Awesome. What do you think? Your thoughts on that, Brent? I got a couple.
Hey, Ursula, I got to be honest with you. I wasn't able to hear what you said, so I was kind of out of that conversation.
Oh, okay. So basically what he was saying is that, going back, and he said he didn't use any of his veteran benefits until he had been out of the military for 35 years. But the concern, and this is where some of the abuse and the fraudulent things come in, is having these organizations that don't have veteran oversight. And so they lose track of the mission, and then it's not purpose over profits, and it's more about raising money. And again, it doesn't take much. Just like he said, it doesn't take much of a Google search to go and find some of the abuse and the fraud, because if there's no oversight, if there's no organizations that are looking, and I know some that are trying to do that now, develop a downward look from the veteran community that really evaluates, and not just the way that GuideStar which is an organization that kind of does financial oversight on nonprofits. Not just from that aspect, but I think what Griff is saying is really focusing on the impact and the services that are being provided, and really holding them accountable from a veteran perspective of producing results is really what he was talking about.
Right.
And and that may, to some, that may seem like, you call it whatever you want, whether you think it's control or whatever, big government. But I think that that's a valid point, because if we, just like we've had to do in the military at times, and just like any business has to do, sometimes it is necessary to trim the fat and really focus on what is producing the results, and focusing on those organizations that are producing results with some oversight. And I think maybe even more of what Griff is saying is the transparency as well as the oversight of what impact is being made. And are we just hyping? Are we just putting on events? Are we just we got lots of swag and lots of other things out there, right? I mean, and there's tons of stuff, and I'm not knocking any of that, because I know people that are selling T-shirts and making coffee and doing these other things, and they are having impact. They're providing jobs. They're impacting the economy. They're helping to add purpose. But then we also know that there's just a lot of noise that's out there with some organizations, and so having some sort of and I guess really maybe that's what the Heroes Advancement Project, maybe that's a part of it down the road, is really getting to the point of saying, not only do we want to support, but we also want to hold organizations accountable. If you say that you're helping veterans get jobs, help veterans get jobs. Don't just put on a bunch of fairs and raise a bunch of money and bring in a bunch of organizations that, because I know here in Dallas, I heard so many veterans that were frustrated because they went to job fair after job fair after job fair, and they'd go there and they would be, they wouldn't be hiring managers there. It would be people, and it would be companies that needed to participate in a veteran event, needed to be able to say that they were supporting veterans. But they were like, we go to these things over and over again, and it's a waste of time, and we see the same people there. And so maybe if we have that some level of oversight that says, we want to help you be successful, but we're going to call you out if you're not. What do you think?
I think that needs to occur. I think that on some level, I think that absolutely has to be done. I mean, it's not only keeping these businesses in check, but it's also lowering the levels of frustration for veterans wanting to get on board with these foundations and nonprofits, to really keep participation where it should be. And if they're not doing their jobs and they've gone through their third organization that makes claims to do these things and really doesn't deliver, I mean, like, I think that's the end now to pulling them out of these groups and these social environments and these communities, because there's that level of frustration of not getting anything accomplished. Why am I going to go hang out with a veterans organization or go spend any time with them when they don't deliver what they're saying they deliver? So I think that would be almost with any company that promises a product and can't deliver on the product, and no longer wanting to work with that company, or let alone even try to purchase that product anymore. And so I think it's absolutely something that needs to be addressed, and I think it's something that needs to be revisited again and again with these veterans, and telling them, hey, there's some actual resources out here. We want to highlight the ones that are doing what they're claimed to be doing, and get you back into the community, get you back on the path to having a little bit more faith in people saying that they're going to do what they have claimed to do.
Yeah, it's not hard to produce a video, and put a couple of veterans on there and some slow dramatic music and do all of these things to tell your story. But again, no business would be successful if it just sold one really good product one time, unless it was like a really expensive product, right? But there's no future in that. And so what we really want to see, and I think what the veteran community needs more than anything else, is the measurables to say, here is the impact. And then we could look back at Joe and Mary Six Pack, USA America, who are donating, who are supporting, who are showing up at these events. And we can say year after year, quarter after quarter. I mean, what public business out there doesn't have to give quarterly reports to their stakeholders, to their investors, right? Because their investors are holding them accountable for doing their job and increasing profits and making them money. And so it wouldn't be a bad thing if in this space that we're talking about, if there was more accountability to say, here's the impact that we're having. And again, we know that everything that's being done isn't a measurable that you can attach a dollar to. But that doesn't absolve us from being accountable to creating impact and making a difference and producing measurable results.
I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. And so that's what we're looking forward to. Now we're going to, one more time, let's go ahead and plug this event, charity event, May 10th, 2019 at State Hall in Fair Park in Dallas. And Emerald City Band is going to be there. If you've never been at a party with these guys, they really, really, really bring it. You want to be there. You want to experience that. Dean McCurry Auction Services is going to be there. Brent's going to be there. There's going to be a national release of a music video that has not been seen before, starring Brent as a part of it. So there's going to be a whole lot going on. But the most important thing, it's an organization that's being raised up to do exactly what we're talking about, to not only support the organizations that already exist. They're not trying to take away from anyone's mission, really trying to help people accomplish their mission, bring a consultative approach to the organizations, provide funding, and connecting the organizations together to really make sure that we're having the greatest impact. And I think this conversation that we need to continue to have about oversight and about really evaluating who is having an impact and highlighting that. In my mind, I'd love to see like an Emmys or Grammys or something like that for organizations that are doing the most for the veteran community and really celebrating that and putting them on blast in the right way. So we're looking forward to seeing you here on May 10th and getting to meet you face to face and continue to do some great work. Any final things you want to say to the audience before we go?
Just real quick, there's someone once said, you give me a fulcrum and a lever long enough, Herschel, and we can move the world. And this is going to be the development of that fulcrum and that lever. And hey, this is to give us the opportunity to move the world. So
awesome. I love it, man. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show today. We'll see you next week. We got a very special guest that you're going to want to hear sing on our show. So this is Herschel Speaks. We'll see you next week. Have a great day. All right, man. Thanks a lot, brother. I'll give you a shout.
Yeah, hey, thank you.